A cliff, a rope, a fall. They called it an accident, a canal bank, a gunshot, a body. They called it a robbery. They lied. Behind it all is a secret worth hundreds of thousands, and a killer who will do anything to protect it. The truth will come out, but at what cost? Join me on the Best Mystery Book podcast, and I, Ian Cartwell, will tell you the whole story.
Chapter 3. Dixon was sitting at his desk waiting for the phone to ring when it rang. It was not the call that he had been expecting. TPC Cole, sir. Good morning, Constable. I'm assuming you have some news for me? Yes, sir. I've got Fayter's climbing equipment from the mortuary. Or rather, his harness and the shunt thing. They're a bit of a mess, I'm afraid. Anything unusual about them? The harness had been cut off him at the mortuary, but apart from that, I can see no damage or anything unusual about them at all. Hang on to them for the time being, will you? What about the phone? I've got that too. Where did you find it? I didn't, sir. It was dropped in by the father. Where did he find it? In the car. Now, to assume from that you haven't checked the car? No, sir. It was recovered from the scene direct to the parents' house. Don't you think it might be a good idea to check the car then? What do you think I might find, sir? Well, you would have found the phone for starters, wouldn't you? I can check it later on today, if you think it necessary. No, leave it to me. Just make sure that you hang on to the phone until I say so. What is it, by the way? An iPhone, sir. Any news on the statements from Birmingham? We should have them by the end of the week. I'm expecting the photos from the high-tech unit later on today or first thing tomorrow. Don't forget to email them straight across to me as soon as you get them, Constable. I won't, sir. Sarah Heath had readily agreed to a meeting when Dixon had telephoned her first thing in the morning, and it was just after 10:30 a.m. when he pulled up outside the address in the Grove, Burnham-on-Sea. He had left strict instructions for Steve Gorman to ring him immediately. He received a call from a funeral director. Dixon guessed that the property was 1930s. It was adjacent to the Avenue Lawn Tennis Club and had clearly been divided into flats. Jake had shared the garden flat with Sarah, and this was accessed by a door at the side of the property. Dixon thought that she was in her early 30s. She had short blonde hair and wore jeans and a white t-shirt, but otherwise looked as if she had just got out of bed. At her invitation, Dixon followed Sarah through to the lounge, which was at the rear of the flat, overlooking the garden. She offered Dixon coffee, which he accepted, and disappeared into the kitchen to put the kettle on. The kitchen was in a small alcove at the back of the lounge, and Dixon could hear Sarah from where he was sitting on the leather sofa. He took a moment to take in the room. There was a large television with a DVD rack next to it. A display of dried flowers told him that the fireplace was not in use. The mantelpiece was covered with photographs and ornaments and ornaments. An ornate mirror was hanging on the wall above. Otherwise, there was a low 3-seat sofa that Dixon was sitting on, a glass coffee table with TV and DVD gizmos on it, and a small table and chairs against the wall on the opposite side of the room. That would be the dining area. Dixon noticed immediately that there was not a single trace of Jake in the room. No photographs of him on the mantelpiece, none of his books anywhere, nor any of the action films that he knew Jake enjoyed in the DVD collection. They had exchanged the usual pleasantries when Dixon had first arrived, but Sarah had not said a word while she was making the coffee. Dixon had left her to it. When she reappeared with 2 mugs of coffee, he took the initiative. How long did you know Jake? We met about 2 years ago when he was still seeing Ruth. I was working in the Clarence. It all got a bit messy for a time. Then he dumped her and moved in with me. Is this your flat then? Yes, well, I rent it. I've lived here about 4 years now, I think. She sat on the floor with her back against the patio window. Where are you working now? I'm still at the Clarence. Had Jake moved in full-time, or was he just staying here from time to time? I don't see any of his stuff around the place. I bagged it all up and dropped it back to his parents yesterday. Why was that, if you don't mind me asking? I do mind you asking. There was suddenly aggression in Sarah's voice. Are you here in an official capacity? Dixon kicked himself for the insensitive question. No, not at all. I'm just trying to find out what happened to Jake. Sarah forced a smile of sorts. I'm sorry. It's difficult. He talked about you a lot, you know. The glory days, he used to call them. That they were. He told me about his solo ascent of, what was it, Quiet Waters. He told everyone about that. So you know why I'm here? Yes, I suppose so. I'm just trying to get to the bottom of what happened. I simply cannot believe that his knot just came undone. Sarah looked as if she was about to start crying. Was he working? Asked Dixon. Not really. Odd jobs for cash, you know. He was claiming job seekers allowance as well. What sort of cash-in-hand jobs was he doing? A bit of gardening here and there, the odd bit of laboring. He worked on the roller coaster at the leisure center too. Nothing regular. Had he been climbing a lot recently? Not a huge amount. He'd been on several trips to Wales with Dan and one trip to Jordan, but he wasn't climbing as much as he used to. Jordan. Yes, there's some good climbing out there, apparently. Plenty of new routes to be had, he said. Tell me about Dan. Dan Hunter, his new climbing partner. I didn't know him that well. Did you ever go climbing? Never. Never saw the point in it. You sound like my mom. Sarah smiled, stood up and turned to look out of the window. Wait a minute, she said. When she turned around to face Dixon, the smile had gone. If you're saying that Jake's knot wouldn't come undone, are you saying that somebody else undid it? That would be murder, wouldn't it? I'm not saying that, no. I'm just saying that I don't know what happened and I owe it to him to find out. I can't rule out foul play, of course, but equally, I have no evidence to suggest that it was foul play. Does that make sense? Yes. I don't expect to find anything, but I promised Maureen I'd look into it. Sarah opened the patio door and stepped into the garden. Dixon followed. Do you know anyone who might have had a grudge against him? Of course not. Was he involved in anything he shouldn't have been, Sarah? What do you mean? He was driving a Subaru Impreza, and it's not an old one, as you know. That's a lot of cash in hand in job seekers' allowance, wouldn't you say? Fuck you. Look, this isn't about what Jake was up to. It's about what happened to him. It's about seeing if there's anyone out there who might have a motive to do him harm. Okay? Of course there's no one. Don't be so. Her voice tailed off. What? It's probably nothing. Tell me anyway. The night before he died, we were in the Vic. He went outside for a smoke, and I could see him arguing with a bloke. Did you ask him what it was about? He wouldn't tell me. Would you recognize the man again? I doubt it. Jake was stood between him and me most of the time. Did you tell PC Cole about this when he spoke to you? He hasn't spoken to me yet. He's spoken to John and Maureen, but not me. And you've got no idea who this man was or what the argument was about? No. It was a short drive from Sarah's flat in the Grove to Jake's parents' bungalow in Braithwaite Place, but Dixon managed to fit in a telephone call to PC Cole. He told him to take a witness statement from Sarah straight away, and specifically to get as much information as he could from her about the argument Jake had with an as yet unidentified white male outside the Vic the night before he died. Cole had asked whether he thought the two incidents were connected. Dixon thought that he had been quite restrained in his response, simply reminding Cole that was the purpose of an investigation. Dixon knocked on the door of the Fayter's bungalow without an appointment. It was just before 11 a.m., and he could see that the Honda Civic was gone from the drive. Jake's Subaru was also missing, and he guessed that it was in the garage. John Fayter answered the door. "Do you have any news, Nick?" "Nothing substantive, John. I was just passing and wanted to have a word with you, if that's okay." "Yes, of course, come in. Maureen's gone shopping." They walked through into the kitchen where John had been making a cup of tea. "Would you like one, Nick?" asked John. "No, thank you. I've just had a cup of coffee with Sarah. What did she have to say for herself?" "She saw Jake arguing with a man outside the Vic the night before he died. Do you have any idea what that might have been about?" "No, no idea. Do you think it might be significant?" "I don't know at this stage, to be honest, but it's certainly something to be looked into. The first thing we've got to do, though, is find out who Jake was arguing with." John finished making his mug of tea. "Let's go and sit down. Sarah told me that she dropped around all of Jake's belongings." "Yesterday." "That's right. A bit quick, wouldn't you say? We thought it a bit odd, but people must deal with grief in their own way, I suppose. Would you mind if I had a look at them?" "Not at all. They're in his room." "Do they include his computer?" "Yes, it's on the bed." "Where's his car?" "I put it in the garage. It kept reminding us what had happened and we wanted it out of the way." Dixon nodded. "It's not that we wanted him out of sight, out of mind," said John. "I just felt that Maureen could do without the constant reminder every time she saw the car." "I quite understand, John. Can I have a quick look in his room?" John showed Dixon through to Jake's bedroom. He opened the door and then stepped to one side to allow Dixon into the room. Dixon thought that the room had not changed much since Jake had first left home. In fact, it still looked like a teenager's bedroom. There were climbing posters on the wall above a single bed, a built-in wardrobe, a chest of drawers, and also what looked like a purpose-built computer desk, but with no computer on it. A surfboard was leaning against the wall next to the wardrobe, and various boxes and bags had been dumped on the bed that Dixon took to be the belongings dropped off by Sarah. "John, I'm going to need to look through his stuff quite carefully. Do you mind?" "I quite understand, Nick. You go ahead. I'll be in the living room. Maureen will be back in an hour or so, and it'd be nice if you'd finish by then." Dixon began by looking through the boxes and bags on the bed. He found Jake's computer and put it to one side, hoping that John Fayter would let him take it with him. Otherwise, there was nothing of interest on the bed. It was just clothing, toiletries, and a few CDs and DVDs. Jake had obviously traveled light. There was still some clothing in the wardrobe, but for the most part, it was full of climbing equipment. Dixon recognized Jake's. Plastic mountaineering boots, crampons, and ice axes. There was also a good selection of winter clothing, mittens, and ice climbing gear. On the floor of the wardrobe was Jake's camping equipment. Dixon could see a tent, sleeping bag, and stove. There was also a telescopic golf ball retriever under the bed, which struck him as odd. Dixon found nothing of interest in the chest of drawers and the computer desk, so he walked back through to the living room where John Fayter was watching the BBC News channel. "I didn't know Jake played golf." "He didn't," replied John. "Do you?" "No, never have. Why?" "There's a telescopic golf ball retriever under the bed. Not only that, but it looks like someone has drilled a hole through the handle for some reason. You have any idea what that's all about?" "None at all. I didn't even know it's there. I'll ask Maureen if she knows anything about it when she gets back." "Thanks," said Dixon. "Can I have a look in Jake's car while I'm here?" "Of course. Follow me." John Fayter opened the garage door to reveal the silver 2009 Subaru Impreza RX. It was his pride and joy, capable of 0 to 60 in under 5 seconds, or something like that. It's a nice car. Did you ever ask him how he was able to afford? No. If he was up to no good, Maureen and I didn't want to. No. Oh. John Fayter handed the keys to Dixon. He climbed into the driver's seat, which was a tight squeeze in the small single garage. John squeezed in alongside the driver's door, so Dixon put the key in the ignition and rolled the window down. Jake always used to go for estate cars, if I remember rightly. That way he could sleep in it at night if he needed to, said Dixon. He was getting on a bit these days, Nick, so he used to stay in bed and breakfasts. I never thought I'd see the day when Jake Fayter stayed in a B&B. John managed a small laugh. Is the car on HP or anything like that, do you know? Asked Dixon. I think he told Maureen he paid cash for it. Dixon looked in the door pockets and the glove box but could see nothing unusual. He felt under the seats, but apart from an empty CD box for U2A's Rattle and Hum, there was nothing. The car was clean and tidy, and Dixon reckoned it must have cost Jake well over 20,000 pounds. He would check later online. Dixon scrambled out of the driver's seat and went to the rear of the car, where he opened the boot. There were various bits of loose climbing equipment, a spare rope and a helmet. Dixon could never recall Jake ever having worn a climbing helmet in all the years that he climbed with him. He looked quizzically at John. It wouldn't have done him much good from that height, said John. Where did you find the phone? It was in the glove box. It's a very nice car. What are you going to do with it? Well, hang on to it for the time being and then sell it perhaps when we feel up to it. It's all a bit raw at the moment. Well, there's no rush, said Dixon, locking the car and handing back the keys. I'm hoping to get the photographs and the witness statements from Birmingham shortly. I'll let you know if there's anything interesting in them. Give my regards to Maureen. I'm afraid I must be on my way. Dixon's phone rang in his jacket pocket just as he reached out to shake John Fayter's hand. Nick Dixon. Steve Gorman, sir. We've had a call from the co-op in Burnham. An elderly lady in Axbridge has died, a Mrs. Waldron. The executor is Mr. Edwards at Clark and Watts Solicitors, and he's happy to help in any way he can. Oak, I'll be back in about half an hour. Can you ring Mr. Edwards and see if he can see me this afternoon? I'm assuming you asked the funeral director to hold the bereavement notices for the time being. Yes, sir. Good. Dixon rang off. I'm afraid I must dash, John. They shook hands before Dixon ran over to his car. Dixon couldn't help but think that Peter Edwards was unduly cheerful for a solicitor specializing in probate work. Edwards had readily agreed to the surveillance operation on the understanding that Mrs. Waldron's insurance company was also content for it to proceed. He was awaiting confirmation. In the meantime, Dixon had looked at the property on Google Earth and it seemed ideal. Bridge House was a double-fronted Georgian property on the outskirts of the village. There were houses opposite, and the property could be reached across 2 fields at the rear. Edwards had confirmed that the property was registered in the names of the deceased and her late husband. He had died in 2008, and the title had not been updated. Perfect. Gorman was speaking to the neighbors to inquire whether any would be content for a surveillance point to be set up on their property. Otherwise, it was just a matter of waiting for the insurers to confirm they were happy. Dixon was at the coffee machine when his telephone rang. Janice Courtenay picked up for him. It's Edwards at Clark and Watts. Dixon abandoned his coffee to take the call. Insurers are quite happy for the operation to go ahead, Inspector, on the understanding that all damage will be paid for by the police. Is that okay? Yes, it is. In that case, can I leave it to you to liaise with the funeral director over the timing? The placement of the death notice, that is? I've given him the wording to use, and as far as I'm concerned, it can go in whenever you're ready. I've rung him to confirm. Thank you, Mr. Edwards. This really is exceptionally helpful. My pleasure, Inspector. Good luck. Thank you. Dixon left his office and walked out into the SID room. Right then, everyone, we're good to go. Bridge House, Axbridge. Jane, can you liaise with the surveillance unit, and Dave, can you get on to Sergeant Wilkins? We'll need some backup on this one. DCI Lewis promised us an armed response unit on standby. Steve, can you get onto them in the helicopter too? A dog unit might be useful, sir, if we have open fields at the back. Good thinking, Jane. Dave, can you ask Wilkins if he can lay that on for us, please?